And who ordered the military to stand down the night of the Benghazi terror attacks? Lawmakers say that they want to hear from more than a dozen State Department officials now, including senior advisors to former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton.
What happened with those personnel?
They remained in Tripoli with us. The medic went with the nurse to the hospital to lend his skills to the treatment of and care of our wounded.
How did the personnel react to being told to stand down?
They were furious.
17 minutes now before the hour. The Benghazi investigation is getting wider. Lawmakers want to interview 13 State Department officials, including senior advisors to then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. John Bolton, former U.S. ambassador to the UN, Fox News contributor. Sir, good morning to you, and welcome back to our program here.
Good morning.
What do you make of this?
Well, I think it's a sign of the seriousness of Chairman Darrell Iss's investigation and the work his committee is going to do. You know, a lot of people say, where's the smoking gun? Where's the revelation in front of the TV cameras about what happened in Benghazi? And quite honestly, I don't think that's the way it's going to play out. I think the way we find out what went wrong before, during, after the attack is the long, slow slog off the TV cameras, hours of interviews of people like these 13 individuals, and I think many, many more, review of hundreds, thousands of documents. That's how the facts will come out. And
I see, but I tell you, if you thought Benghazi was fading, this would suggest just the opposite, would it not?
Absolutely. It's not going to fade away. This was a catastrophe for the United States. And one, I might say, in his speech yesterday, the President of the United States still doesn't understand what a blow we suffered and the impression that our failure to avenge those killings has left among terrorists and our adversaries around the world. So I think this investigation by Chairman Issa and others is critical to proceed for our own safety's sake.
Now, this poll came out just a few days ago. This is really reflective, I think, of how this story continues to percolate out there. 62% believe the president could have done more to help the Americans at the consulate the night in Benghazi. I mean, that's a clear majority there, Mr. Ambassador.
No, I think it's a compelling argument that the people of the United States actually expect the president to do something to defend them and their fellow citizens around the world. And that's why, again, I think the president's speech yesterday was a further retreat from the war on terror. He couldn't acknowledge the attack on Benghazi on September the 11th itself was an act of international terrorism. He didn't want to acknowledge it with respect to the Boston Marathon bombing. He's always thought it was just a matter of law enforcement, and the policy he revealed yesterday indicates he's going to try and wind down the war on terror even further. I think this leaves us more vulnerable.
Well, he mentioned Benghazi and he mentioned Boston in that speech.
Well, he mentioned it, and then he said we can solve it through law enforcement matters. You know, we've already seen that the Justice Department and others have identified 18 people associated with the Benghazi attack, but we have not moved against them because we don't have enough evidence to prove them guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in an American courtroom. They're never going to get to an American courtroom, and we shouldn't wait for that anyway. This is a fundamental conceptual choice here.
Just to get the quote correct here, they, meaning Al-Qaeda, this is what the president said, they did not direct the attacks in Benghazi or Boston. He continued, they have not carried out a successful attack on our homeland since 9/11. It harkens back to John Kerry in 2004 when he was campaigning for the White House. That was really his strategy, you know, turn it into a police act as opposed to a military act.
Now, look, this is myopia. This is willful blindness. You define al-Qaeda to be an insignificant little band of people trapped in Waziristan, and then you say the problem's over. Maybe it's good politics for the president. I leave that to others to decide, but it's very bad for American national security.
One more topic here. Victoria Nuland has now been recommended by the president for a promotion. How does that happen in the middle of this investigation?
Well, look, I've known her for many years. I think she's very qualified for the job she's been nominated for. There's no suggestion she's done anything wrong with respect to Benghazi, but she's also an eyewitness on a day-to-day basis for the last 2.5 years of our policy in Libya. So I think there are a lot of interviews she's going to have to go through. That's the way the game is played in Washington now, and I think this is an excellent opportunity for people to learn more about Benghazi.
Don't you have an issue with the watering down of the talking points?
Well, I think
apparently she was involved in that.
Yeah, I think she was doing what her political masters wanted. That's what Foreign Service officers should do. The problem is too many of them don't like to do it in Republican administrations. But I want to know, who told her that the talking points were unacceptable? She used the phrase, her building management. Was that Secretary of State Clinton? Was that Secretary Clinton's chief of staff? Who was it? That doesn't mean Tory Newland's done anything wrong, but I think the questions that she alone can answer are very pertinent to this investigation.
And you've known her for years, and she's qualified.
I'd vote to confirm her, but I'd have a long interview with her.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. John Bolton out of Washington there. Thank you.